right, good morning, everybody. We are on the record in case number 2025-00228, which is the electronic application of Duke Energy, Ohio, for a certificate of construction for two new 138 kilovolt non-regulated electric transmission lines, approximately 1.2 and 1.3 miles in length in Boone County, Kentucky. My name is Angie Hatton. I'm chair of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. Joining me today are Commissioners Mary Pat Regan and Commissioner Andrew Wood. And I also, as chair of the Public Service Commission, serve as chair for the Kentucky State Board on Electric Generation and Transmission Siting. And online joining us is Deputy Secretary of the Energy and Environment Cabinet, John Lyons, who serves as proxy for Rebecca Goodman. And I'm told that Jansen Hammock, who serves as proxy for Economic Development Secretary Jeff Noel, is under the weather and can't join us today, but has told us to go ahead without him, and he can watch the video later before we make a decision. At this time, I would caution attendees to please set your cell phones to silent or turn them off. And for those who might join us online, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. At this time, let's have entry of appearance of counsel. And please, as you introduce yourself, identify your witnesses. For the applicant.
Thank you, Your Honor. On behalf of Duke Energy, Ohio, I am Rocco Diascenzo, Deputy General Counsel, business address 139 East 4th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio. Appearing with me this morning is Larissa Baseman and Sheena McGee-Leach. The company has several witnesses to present this morning. Fred Trammell, Director of Power Grid Operations. Elizabeth Betsy Ewald, Lead Power Grid Operations Siting Manager. John Rogers, Manager of Power Grid Operations Engineering. Jeff Turner, Principal Engineer. Ken Muth, Government and Community Relations Manager. And John Hurd, Director of Stakeholder Infrastructure Engagement.
Okay, and that's the order you'll call them in?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Counsel for the interveners, Mr. Depp has filed notice that he won't be appearing.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Any further information in that filing?
No, he just said he would not be in attendance in today's hearing.
Okay. And for commission staff?
Cole Carr.
Counsel, I'm told that public notice has been given.
Yes.
Okay, and filed into the record on December 10th.
Yes.
I know there's one outstanding motion for confidential treatment that's not been ruled on. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
No other motions at this time? Okay. Is there anyone in the room who came here today for the purpose of giving public comment? Seeing no one approaching the microphone or indicating that they came here for public comment, I will say that public comment may still be given on the record by emailing us at psc.comment@ky.gov, and let the record show that instructions and link to provide public comments have been posted on the website for at least the past day. Okay, anything further before we move on to presentation of evidence?
None here, Your Honor.
All right, please call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. On behalf of Duke Energy, Ohio, we would call Fred Trammell.
Good morning. Would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. Tell us your full name and business address, please.
I am Fred Trammell. I am the Director of PGO Transmission Project Management.
Okay, counsel.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Trammell.
Hello.
Would you please describe your responsibilities in relation to this application for the record?
So I am the Director of Project Management. My project management team manages the progression of the project from the time it's handed off from our development group all the way through engineering, through construction, and through our closeout processes. We ensure that our processes are followed throughout the life cycle of the project.
Thank you. And did you sponsor any exhibits to the application or responses to data requests that were issued as part of this proceeding?
Yes.
And do you have any changes or corrections to any of that information?
No.
So if you were asked those same questions this morning, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
And is it your intention that that information be considered your testimony for this proceeding and be admitted into the record?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, the witness is available for cross-examination.
Okay, and since the intervener and counsel are not here, we'll move to staff. Questions?
Mr. Trimble, if I ask you any questions and you're not able to answer those and they're a better witness, just please let me know.
I sure will. Thank you.
Why did Duke Energy determine that 2 new 180 kV transmission lines were needed?
I would like to defer that to Jeff Turner, who will be a witness later. He's our transmission planner.
How long do you anticipate that construction will take for each route?
So it depends if the route is approved. We need to see what the engineering results are, what soils, borings. It's hard to really guess that. Design could take 9 to 12 months. Construction could take anywhere from 6 months to a year, depending on what we find and what our work plan ends up being.
Do you have an anticipated start date that you would like to start construction?
So we don't have an anticipated start date because we need to see how the easement process goes at this time.
What time of the day do you anticipate construction will take place?
What time of day?
What time of day?
I would think we start no earlier than 7 a.m. and go no later than 6 p.m., depending on weather.
Are all the transmission lines going to be above ground?
Yes.
How many acres are going to be cleared for this project?
I don't know that answer.
Is there a better witness?
I don't know that answer either. I think it depends on the route that's approved, the easement, the number of turns in the line. You know, it's hard to determine that clearance on the vegetation just yet.
Do you know, with the route that's presently in front of the siting board now, does your answer change at all?
I still don't know
Okay.
the amount, sorry.
Are you the best witness to answer any questions about interconnection?
No.
Okay. Who would be the better witness?
I'm not sure I'm not sure.
We'll come back. What environmental studies have been completed for this project?
I don't believe, I think Betsy would be better to answer that from the siting standpoint.
Okay. Has a view shed analysis report been completed for this project?
Can you repeat that?
A view shed analysis?
I'm not sure of that.
Okay. Well, come back. As you are aware, AIT are interveners in this party. Are you the best witness to ask any questions about the communications that you've had with AIT?
I'm not aware of anything other than the questions that they've sent us.
Okay.
That's all that I'm aware of.
Are you aware of whether Duke Energy Ohio has met with AIT since this application has been filed?
I'm not sure.
Typically, when a case comes in front of the siting board, the leases have already been assigned or executed. Can you explain to the siting board in this case why no leases have been executed for this project?
We wanted to ensure that the route was approved through this process, And then we would start making contacts with the property owners to negotiate those easements and accesses to their property.
Has there been any attempts at all by Duke Energy Ohio to contact any potential participating landowners?
Not that I'm aware of.
In staff's second request, item 2, it provides that in the event that an acquiring easements along a preferred route is not possible, and assuming legal remedies are not possible, what legal remedies is being referred to? Are you aware?
I would defer to our legal counsel on what those options are.
Are you able to confirm that this transmission line project will comply with all American Society of Testing and Materials and the American Society of Civil Engineering standards?
I would say yes, we are, but I would think the better person to answer that is John Rogers.
Okay. Are you able to confirm whether any structure will be demolished during the course of construction?
Not at this time. We need to see what the engineering plans end up being.
And so as far as your engineering plans, is it going to be an EPC that's hired within Duke Energy, or will you source that out as far as who's going to develop your engineering plans?
Our engineering would lead whatever the pathway is for our engineering to be sourced. Whether we chose EPC, we would have internal engineering lead that effort, or if they used a preferred vendor that's currently under contract, they would still lead. Our internal engineering would lead the effort.
And so when will all that take place? Are you going to wait until after you have all your easements, or is that going to be done prior to you signing or land agreements being executed?
Yeah, so as soon as we get an approved route, we would go out and do some initial surveying so that we can establish, the engineering group would establish a center line to give our land services group something to work off of as they talk to property owners. But then any other more detailed engineering would wait until all of the easements were negotiated.
How long are you anticipating the easement process of obtaining easements, and how long are you anticipating that to last?
Yeah, that's a great question. We assume 9 to 12 months typically. If it goes faster, great. It could go longer if we don't have the ability to negotiate with a property owner, and we seek those whatever the other legal options might be.
Are you the right witness to ask questions about the right-of-way?
I think so.
Okay. How many feet wide is the proposed right-of-way going to be?
It's if it's along the roadside, it was 70 feet, and if it's within a property, it was 100 feet.
How long is the actual proposed line going to be?
Approximately 1.25 miles for each one.
Okay. Do you know the distance between the poles along the right-of-way?
It depends on the engineering plans.
Okay.
What they find for soil testing, there's a lot of variables there.
Could you describe to the siting board what poles are going to be used for this project?
No, that depends on the engineering plans. John Rogers would be better to
Okay.
ask that question of.
Do any of the proposed transmission line route intersect with any existing transmission lines?
Only at the point of tapping.
Okay. Are you able to identify what company will be responsible for maintaining the vegetative clearing of the right-of-way while the project is operational?
Not the specific company, but we do have several vegetation companies that are under contract with us, under MSAs. We would bid it out to those three or so vendors and use one of those more than likely.
Are you aware if any habitat of any endangered species that is located along the transmission line route?
I'm not aware of any.
Is there a better witness that I could ask that of?
Maybe Betsy?
Okay. Can you explain whether the entire proposed right-of-way route will be cleared of vegetation prior to construction, or will it be cleared while the actual line is being constructed?
We would want to clear the entire route to see the full picture of what's in that easement, so that as we start to bring in equipment and vehicles, we don't have any surprises. So we would attempt to clear the entire right-of-way before starting any construction.
Do you know the distance from the closest residence to the right-of-way?
No, we don't know the right-of-way location just yet.
But based on the proposed plan that was submitted, you have sort of an idea where you would like it to be?
We do.
Okay. And so based on the plan that was submitted, do you know the distance?
I don't know the
closest.
distance.
Okay. We'll be requesting that in a post-hearing data request. Is Duke Energy committed to leaving vegetation in a place to provide a buffer where practical?
I think we would clear only what's needed to protect the reliability of the line.
In this case, Duke Energy is requesting a variance, is that correct?
I'm not aware of that.
Do you know if there's a better witness?
I don't know that.
Okay. Who will be responsible for maintaining and ensuring that all mitigation measures that are required by the siding board during construction and after in operational, who will be required to make sure all those mitigation measures are being complied with?
My project manager would have the responsibility throughout construction. We would turn that over to our operations team after construction is over. So if there's anything that would remain for future state, they would own that responsibility.
And so is the project manager going to be on site on a day-to-day basis?
No. They would have normal, regular visits, update meetings on site. There would be a construction manager that would be on site most days. I don't want to say every day, but most days we would have a construction manager responsible for actual construction on the site.
Do you anticipate any noise issues as far as during the construction of the actual transmission line?
I would think there would be normal, typical drilling and setting the poles, things like that. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Do you know the distance of the closest residence to the transmission line?
I don't.
What mitigation measures are the Duke Energy expecting or recommending for this project?
In relation to what?
In relation to noise, in relation to just various concerns that I know the siding board hired a consultant and he had various mitigation measures. And does Duke Energy have any issues with any of the recommendations from the consultant?
No, I don't believe we did. You're referring to the Elliott report?
Yes.
Yes.
Elliott. If a resident or a business would have any issue that would occur during the construction of the project, who would that person contact?
Yeah, they would get a mailer that has an 800 number on it that they would call in and we would respond to those issues.
And so that 1-800 number, who is the person that's actually going to be answering that? Is that going to be the project manager or the construction manager on site?
There's an engagement person that works for John Hurd, who will be up here later, that monitors that
Okay.
number, and a website that they then funnel those needs back to my project manager.
Is Betsy the best witness to ask for any questions regarding the route?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Wood?
Thank you. Mr. Trammell, what is the purpose of this transmission line?
To provide reliability in this area. The area is growing so fast that we need to make sure that we can provide the power. It's a capacity and a reliability issue for the area.
Is this line is it a backup line, or is it going to meet some need that's not being met now?
Could I defer that to Jeff Turner, please?
Okay, very well. That's all I have.
Commissioner Regan?
Are you the best person to ask about community engagement?
No, John Hurd.
Okay, great, thanks. Yep.
Good morning. You work for Duke Energy Ohio, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Explain to me a little bit about the relationship between Duke Energy Kentucky and Duke Energy Ohio. What is the reason that Duke Energy Ohio is filing for the transmission line, CPCN in Kentucky?
So I'm not exactly sure the rules. These are very old rules that were established prior to me working for the company. When we had ULH&P, they established what voltage would be assigned to DEK and DEO, and we're still building under those requirements today. Our planner, like Jeff Turner, for instance, would establish what business unit owns that line or sub based on those rules.
Okay,
That's really what I know about
so
that.
Mr. Turner might know a little more.
Yes.
Okay. Does it primarily benefit Duke Energy Ohio's customers, or do you know?
I don't know.
And then, when choosing among the 60 different lines, and if you're not the best witness to answer this question, let me know. I believe there were 60 different potential routes that were examined. Did it not play into the decision for which ones you would eventually put forth as your choice? Did it not play into that choice or decision-making that people were willing to lease their lines, their property for it?
I don't know that answer.
Okay. Do you know who might?
Betsy.
All right. That's all the questions I have. Do you have redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, just a few questions.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I have forgotten Deputy Secretary Ryan. My apologies, sir.
worries.
Last but certainly not least. Your-
That's okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions. Morning, Mr. Trammell. Can you speak to double circuiting?
You mean, in what aspect, sir?
Well, basically, rather than having two routes, just running one route. Can you speak to that?
I think Jeff Turner would be better, but my understanding is double circuiting, although it does save in easements, it does lessen the reliability because you could knock one auto damage could tear up both circuits at the same time. The way we're proposing gives us variation and separates those two circuits to provide better reliability. But again, Jeff Turner would be maybe better to answer that.
Okay, what I'm interested there is the evaluation of risk versus reward of having one versus two, cost, easements, as you put out, disturbance of just the surrounding area, so on and so forth. So we'll wait till the other witness was able to speak to that. Mr. Tram, I don't know if you could speak to this or not, but typically in these siting board hearings, there's a thing called a cumulative environmental assessment. Now, that's, the statute says for generation. It doesn't say anything about transmission. I noticed there's obviously not one submitted into the record here, as well as many other things we'll expect for ecological species, endangered species, things like that. But generally, beyond a stormwater prevention plan, which was mentioned in the record that would be one of the permits that have to be obtained, what would happen during construction to limit air quality issues, perhaps, or waste management issues along the routes? Can you speak to that?
No, I can't.
Who would be best to speak to that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Going back and following up on what Madam Chair was relating to the routes, the evaluation of 60 different routes. I noticed, and this is in reference to crossing AIT's property, I did notice that I think it was where segment 17 kind of ends. It doesn't follow, I don't have the map in front of me, it's not Turfway Road, but it's the other road that's parallel to Turfway Road. It seems to me that the route could have been taken around that other road and avoided AIT's property. Can you tell me why that was not included in any of the segments? There was no evaluation of that one last segment that would begin at segment 17 and go on around to the substation. Is there a reason for that, to your knowledge?
I'm not the best person to answer that.
Who would that be?
Betsy,
Okay.
our siting manager.
All right, no other questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Trammell, do you recall questions from staff counsel about vegetation acres that might, of clearing that might be required?
Yes.
Is there a witness that might be able to provide some information about that as it relates to the routes that are under consideration?
A witness here
Here
today?
today.
Maybe John Rogers?
John Rogers? Okay. Do you recall questions about conversations with AIT that the company had from commission, the commission?
Questions?
Yes. Do you know whether there are any witnesses present today that would have been engaged in that kind of stakeholder engagement that might be able to answer some of those questions?
I'm not sure.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Any recross by staff,
No.
commissioners? Deputy Secretary, any recross?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Now, is this your lead witness that will stay all day, or normally we have one lead witness stay and excuse the rest?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So I can't excuse you at this time
Okay.
in case we need to recall you, but you can certainly sit down from the stand.
Thank you.
Thank you. And when you're ready, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. For our next witness, Duke will call Elizabeth Betsy Ewald.
Good morning, Ms. Ewalt. Would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury? Thank you. Please be seated and tell us your full name and business address, please.
Elizabeth Ann Ewalt, also Betsy, please call me that today. My business address is 1000 East Main Street, Plainfield, Indiana.
Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Ewald, would you please state your official title and also tell us a little bit about your responsibilities with regard to this application?
Yep. I'm the lead siting manager for power grid operations for Duke Energy Midwest. My role and responsibilities include siting and routing any projects that need new land for potential new substations or easement for new transmission lines.
Thank you. And Ms. Ewald, did you sponsor portions of the application and certain exhibits to the company's application in this proceeding?
Yes.
And also, thank you. And did you also cause responses to data requests to be filed in this proceeding?
Yes.
And do you have any corrections or changes to any of those exhibits or application portions or data request responses today?
No.
And if you were asked to provide the same information and responses this morning, would your responses be the same?
Yes.
And is it your intent that those portions of the application and the exhibits and the data request responses be considered your testimony in this proceeding and be admitted into the record of this proceeding?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Ewald. Your Honor, the witness is available for cross-examination.
Okay. Staff?
Good morning, Ms. Ewald. If I ask you any questions, they're a better witness to answer those questions, just please let me know.
Okay.
But from my understanding, you're the best witness as far as the route of these transmission lines.
Yes, ma'am.
A preferred route layout was submitted when the application was filed. Have there been any changes to that layout since the application's been filed?
No, ma'am.
A route selection study was also completed by Jacobs Engineering Group for this project. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the next few questions I had is going to be talking about that route selection study.
Okay.
According to this study, it looked like there were several route selection considerations. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to explain to the siting board some of the process that was used to determine for this specific report
Yes.
about what was going to be the best route?
Yes.
Right. The first consideration they looked at was the study area delineation. Is that accurate?
Yes.
What was the study area that was used for this project?
So it was, can I flip to an exhibit?
absolutely.
Just to help us visualize, make sure I get the road names correct in here. But one of our boundaries or one of our considerations was the location of our new substation, our proposed substation, the Turfway substation, as well as the transmission lines that we needed to tie into. So that was kind of the starting point of where we needed to be. From there, we built out delineated our study area based on other constraints such as the CVG airport, not going onto or past their property to have issues with height restrictions, as well as other roads. I think Ted Bushelman Road, our transmission line on the southeast side, as well as Donaldson Highway on the other side. So we used roads and other constraints to kind of delineate our study area.
And so does that Pacific study area, when you look at Exhibit 2 of the report and it's the map, page 25, is that the exact study area that was used for this project?
Yes, ma'am.
What type of ecological and cultural resource concerns were there as far as this project?
Mostly it was existing forested areas and trees that were going to have to be cleared. I don't believe we found any threatened and endangered federal or state species that were going to be of concern in any of the areas. There were also a few streams and wetlands, National Wetland Inventory wetlands that hadn't been field verified yet. So those were the main environmental concerns or features that we were going to be working around.
Have there been any environmental reports completed for this project?
No, ma'am.
And who actually determined there were no violations or concerns as far as environmental impact? Is that the Jacobs engineers?
Yes, ma'am.
Another concern or issue that this report looked at was land use and engineering resources. Could you talk a little bit or explain to the siting board what those concerns were for this project?
Yes, so land use concerns such as proximity to residential homes and businesses, the type of land use we're going to be impacting, future development, planned use development for those properties. Let me flip to the right page and make sure I don't miss anything. But I think I said proximity to businesses as well, something that we try to minimize impacts on, things of that nature.
And so as far as the potential impact on existing use and future land uses, what were the constraints as far as future land uses for the transmission lines moving forward?
We had a few developers reach out to us, as well as the city of Florence, and let us know that there were planned developments for commercial businesses. They didn't give us a lot of details. A lot of that is in the pre-planning stage, and they don't even have the details themselves, so it's mostly for additional commercial and business development and growth in the area.
And what was the constraint as far as the expansion of the 275, I-75 corridor?
Those are plans that we saw on the KYTC website. They had, I think, had an open house, and they had some communication with the public, and have publicly available made their plans for a road improvement and beautification projects.
Now, in this report on page 3-5, it talks about 60 alternative routes that were developed. And it looks like when you look at Exhibit 2 on page 29 of this report, that a lot of those alternative routes are based on the location, like TAP A, TAP B, C, etc. Could you start at TAP A and explain to the siting board the issues, the concerns, and how you move forward as regarding the alternative route for TAP A?
So what issues or concerns there are for TAP A?
Mm-hmm.
You mind if I flip
Yes.
to that page? You said it's page 29?
Yes.
Okay, so starting with TAP A.
Yes.
Some of the concerns we had was just proximity to some of the buildings, as TAP A follows Ted Bishelman Boulevard further north. We get closer to the airport, so we end up having some issues with that airspace analysis and kind of proximity to the airport, and potential issues with approach vectors to the runway, and just having some more constraints on our pole heights. TAP A following Meyer Drive, there were fewer issues. It's just, it lengthens our route from the Turfway substation. But mostly the impacts are the same as, say, TAP Point B or C or D. TAP Points B and C were shorter routes, fewer issues, except for TAP C does overlap quite a bit of the beautification, the KYTC beautification project that I mentioned earlier.
And let me just stop you right there. Now, on page 29, Exhibit 2 is the actual map. Is that still accurate as far as the locations of TAP A, B, C,
Yes.
D, E, and F? Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Continue on with TAP B.
Yep, so TAP B probably has the fewest potential issues that we would have to mitigate for. It is a lot of roadside or following paralleling road right-of-ways, as well as having safe distances from buildings and businesses. TAP Point D and E are fairly similar. Some of the routes that use those TAP locations did go up and around the Turfway Park, so it would be a little bit more impactful to the Turfway game, or Turfway Park Racing and Gaming Facility, which is why we're coming out to the south and going down in the direction that we want to go. TAP Point F, those are the longest routes that we have in our study, as well as using the Marydale property, which we know has future planned development use, as well as Turfway Road and Donaldson Highway, which also have road improvement and road widening projects planned for those roadways as well, which puts some significant constraints on our route selection using those segments.
Ultimately, Route B, the western route, Route BG, and Route EK were the preferred route. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so what would you say if those routes weren't approved, what would be the next route or the alternative route that Duke Energy would like to use?
I don't know that I can say that today. It kind of depends on why they're not going to be approved and if there's any requests as to why we need to avoid those routes. That could impact our selection of another route that might use the same tap point B or E location.
Why was the western route or Route BG, why was that one ultimately selected for the western route?
It was the lowest impact route that didn't use that tap point C location, which has the road widening and road improvement concerns along it. It was one of the shortest routes for the western line, as well as had the fewest cumulative impacts.
Do you know how long that route is actually going to be?
I think it's about 1.2 miles.
Could you explain to the siting board as far as the route, the EK or the eastern route, I'm sorry, how that was determined to be the preferred route?
Yes, that one also had the fewest or the lowest cumulative impacts, as well as one of the shortest routes for all of the eastern routes that were identified. Originally, we were going to use a tap point D location, but another developer had reached out to us, and the property that most of the D locations use said that they shared with us that their development plans would be severely impacted if we used that tap location. So finding that one to be overly impactful, we shifted a little bit further east to E, and EK was then the next best ranking route or lowest impactful route.
How does the presence of water bodies impact the route of this project?
There weren't a lot of water bodies present. There's just a few, I think, along the interstate and maybe throughout, but most of this area has been heavily developed. So most of the water bodies or drainage streams and creeks have been piped or are underground. It wasn't a significant driver.
Were there any concerns about the historic resources that were located?
We avoided most of, or all of the historic resources that we were aware of. Most of the ones that are still present are on that Marydale property between the Turfway Gaming Park and Donaldson Highway. There are some, I think, an old cemetery, and then there's also a cemetery up on the Passionist Nuns property. So all of these routes do avoid all of those historic or sensitive areas.
How far as the route, and from my understanding when we reviewed the data request, that there was a meeting with AIT regarding the route. How did the route change from the first meeting when you met them into by the end of the meeting? How did that layout change?
Sure. So AIT had requested that we move our route a little bit further away from their facilities, which we did. We did discuss with them that there is a large forested area in the northwest corner of their property that does contain what seems to be a drainage pond or water body. They did also verbally confirm that all the businesses around that area drain into that pond or that low-lying area. So with the concerns we raised with them of putting electric poles overhead over an open body of water or a resource like that, as well as having to clear more trees, we did discuss with them about moving the line just against the tree line that's on their property. That would be further away from their facilities.
And so at the onset, how close was that line from their facility?
It was at least 50 feet. I know their building was at least out of our right-of-way. I don't know the exact number, but we could provide that information.
Do you know now with the new updated, since you had the meeting and you made some changes, do you know the distance that facility is, that transmission line from their warehouse currently is?
I don't have that measurement. I know it's further away than what it was originally planned to be.
Okay.
But we could provide that
All right,
information as
we'll
well.
be requesting that in a post-hearing data request. Are you the best witness that can answer some questions about any type of views from the transmission line from
Yes.
residential homes?
Yes, ma'am.
Was any viewshed analysis completed for this report?
No, a formal viewshed analysis report was not conducted, but we included as part of our criteria data that we do quantitative evaluation with. So such as proximity to businesses and homes, we're trying to locate these lines as far away from businesses and homes as we can. So the viewshed portion of it was included in our criteria data.
And so do you know the distance from the closest transmission line to the closest residence?
The residents, I believe it's in one of the data requests. If you don't mind, I'll flip to it. And I think it's staff data request 01009. We did provide that Western Route BG will require, or no, I'm sorry. That's the vegetation. I do have your vegetation answer. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun on that one. Our nearest residence to Route EK from the center line, from the new transmission line to the nearest home is 166 feet approximately.
And again, we'll go back to the answer that you were just prepared to give me. You can go
Sorry.
ahead. What was the distance for the vegetative screening?
I think it was approximate acreage of vegetative clearing. Is that what you asked?
Yes.
Route BG would be about 0.93 acres,
Okay.
and Route EK is approximately 8.08 acres.
Does this proposed transmission line, do either line cross any wild or scenic or recreation rivers?
No, no ma'am.
Does the proposed transmission line cross any scenic districts or roads or designated history or scenic overviews?
Not that I'm aware of.
Does the proposed transmission line cross any parks or recreation area or wildlife management areas?
No ma'am.
Would you be able to answer any questions as far as the communication with schools regarding the location and the distance of the transmission lines?
I believe the distance to schools was provided in a data request, but all communications, I would defer to our public engagement director, if you don't mind.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have for right now.
Okay, Commissioner Wood.
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Reagan.
Just one, good morning.
Good morning.
And you can let me know if you're the best person to answer this question or not. Can you talk about the decision not to bury any of the lines?
That is not my area of expertise. I'm going to defer that to Mr. Turner.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
And Deputy Secretary Lyons?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to you all. Just a couple of follow-up questions. I think Mr. Trammell deferred to you both times on a couple of my questions. Let's go back to the preferred route BG. And I'll try to state this question a little better than I did to Mr. Trammell. So in looking at those routes, if you look at A, B, or C, I noticed that from segment 13, for segment 17 that runs along Thoroughbred Boulevard, you get to the point where it curves around and intersects with Turfway Road. And none of the route evaluations considered going around that turn in Thoroughbred Boulevard and intersecting or crossing Turfway Road over to the point of the substation. Can you tell me why that wasn't considered? Because that would avoid AIT's property. That's the reason I ask.
Well, just so I understand the question and maybe just some clarification, if we stay,
I'm sorry, Ms. Ewald, I'm looking at Exhibit 2, page 32 of 65 is what I'm looking at. So you can visually see it.
so if we continued our route along Thoroughbred Boulevard, we would still cross the front of AIT's property, and then we would cross Turfway Road right at the entrance to the Turfway Gaming Park. You know, through considerable communication with Turfway, they proposed, or they did ask us to not put any poles or locate any poles right on that intersection. I believe they have some signage and stoplights and other constraints that are in the area that would not necessarily work with our infrastructure, which is why that wasn't evaluated.
Okay, well, although it still would be at least in the right-of-way there of Turfway Boulevard and around AIT's property, it's not on the side where they plan on expansion, so that's the reason I was asking.
I understand.
I didn't know if there was a specific reason or not, but I just wanted to get that into the record of why that wasn't considered, because it wasn't considered in any of the route evaluations.
Well, yeah,
or
correct.
any of those western taps, so.
Correct. At the time of us delineating the alternative routes as well as, while we were identifying the alternative routes, we didn't know that AIT had plans to expand their building. So we try to go where there is open space available, so we're not over top of other underground utilities or going through intersections where there might be a lot of traffic lights. And on the other side, where Turfway Gaming Park is located, the signage that's over there, we just saw the back area of AIT's property is very open and available space that we could potentially use. We did not learn about their expansion plans until I think it was July of this year.
Okay, thank you. You heard the question asked Mr. Trammell about a cumulative environmental assessment and the fact that a statute, it doesn't look to appear to be required in this instance, but still obviously responsible for any environmental conditions that this construction might cause. Duke has indicated it would get a stormwater permit, which is good. But as far as any other environmental conditions, are there any steps that Duke, Ohio would take to ensure that there's like no dust or any waste management issues that might occur from the construction?
I'm not sure about the waste management part of the question, but I do know, as I think it's part of the stormwater pollution prevention plan, is erosion controls to make sure there's not significant runoff into any water bodies or streams and such. So I know that they will do those best management practices that Duke always follows.
Okay. And then back to the pre-clearing. On your western route, that's not necessarily significant, but on the eastern route, it's 8 acres of trees that is planned to be cleared for the preferred route. Have you all had an actual environmental consultant assess the tree species and presence of potential roosting habitat for any threatened or endangered species of bat?
We have not had any studies conducted.
Do you plan on doing that?
Yes, sir.
And then consultation with Fish and Wildlife if necessary?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think that'll factor into, if that's roosting habitat, which typically it probably is, would be my guess, that would potentially be a payment to the Imperiled Bat Conservation Fund. So I just wanted to get that on the record as well, since you all have done absolutely no studies for us to really look at this point. So Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Secretary. Ms. Ewalt, I had asked Mr. Trammell about if it's not part of the initial decision-making when you're choosing among the 60 different routes, whether or not you have the ability to lease right-of-way rather than going through the eminent domain process. Do you know the answer to that?
I'm not sure
Could I ask that a little more artfully, maybe? Would that be helpful? Does it matter when you're choosing the route, whether or not you think you'll have to do the eminent domain process rather than going through leasing process?
I will say it does matter. We do try to communicate with the public. We hold an open house. We do a 30-day comment period, as well as being available for any other comments and questions and feedback throughout the routing study and the application process as well. So
Was that done in this
Yes.
case? Okay.
yes, ma'am. I'm going to defer to John Hurd on some of the communications, but the open house was held. I think it was July 28th of 2024, or August 28th. I had 2 open houses back to back that summer. I will let John confirm that. But we did a hefty amount of public engagement just to make sure that we understood what concerns the public had, whether they were businesses or residences, schools, parks, or other stakeholders in the area.
So no leases have been completed, but did you have some indication that that those landowners would be amenable to leasing?
Yeah, everyone that we talked to was very cordial and not contentious in our discussions with them.
There's 24 of them, I believe,
believe.
between the 2 routes, 110 and 114. Why not try to get the leases first with an option and with the contingency that the PSC has to approve it? Why do it in this order?
I think I'm going to defer to Fred's answer on that, as he spoke to the first time of that's been our process at Duke Energy, is to get approval first before we spend a significant amount of time or money trying to acquire leases.
Gotcha. And when you're choosing one of the routes, how much does lease costs matter?
In this case, knowing that this whole area is highly developed and continuing to develop, I think our assumption was that price per acre was about the same. So trying to find the shortest route with the least number of acres that we were going to have to acquire for easement was a driver, was part of our quantitative evaluation and one of the criteria that was considered.
Do you try to go for residential property rather than business property for that reason?
No. I don't think that hasn't been a driving factor in our evaluation.
And were you part of the discussions with the intervener AIT?
Yes.
Some concession was made for their concerns. Could you tell me about that?
Yes, so they had some concerns about future development, I think a building expansion plan at their current location. So we did ask for plans that we could look at and verify if we could move the route to avoid those expansion plans. They did provide us with conceptual plans. They were not finalized or hadn't been filed or approved with the city or commissioner or planning group. They were also about, I think the date on them was from 1992, so we did ask for updated plans that were spatially referenced so that we could, with certainty, say whether or not we would be impacting their building, and those were not provided. So working with what we had, we made the best concession that we could with what we were given.
And the route would still go through part of the area they wanted to use for expansion?
It would pass next to the expanded building, so it would still be on AIT's property, but it would not be over top of their building.
How far will it be, assuming they build according to the 1992 specs that they gave you?
According to those figures, it was roughly about 35 to 40 feet, I believe. Again, with using PDF maps and trying to overlay them without having exact measurements, I don't have a exact number that I can confirm
And
today.
how long ago were those discussions?
July and August, I believe, of this year.
Prior to intervention in this case? Then?
Yep.
It doesn't sound like they were able to be satisfied by that concession. You might not be the right person for this, but who will maintain the lines? Will it be Duke Energy Ohio?
That is not a me question.
That's not even, okay.
That's not my area of
All
expertise.
right, no problem. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from the commissioners? Nope. Any redirect?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Ewald, are you able to speak generally to the need for and purpose of this project?
No.
And are you able, did you hear the question earlier about why two lines are necessary?
Yes.
Are you able to speak to that?
I would like to defer that to Jeff Turner as well.
Okay, thank you. And then were you present for Mr. Trammell's testimony earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you hear a question about whether a variance request was also included
Yes.
with the proposed routes? Could you give an overview describe please that variance request?
I'm not aware of a variance request at this time.
Do you have staff DR set 1, number 31 with you?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
And perhaps I should have set a plan for variance rather than a variance request.
Okay.
Is that familiar?
Yes, for the 150-foot filing corridor that we proposed. Is that your question?
Yeah. Okay. Could you just describe that briefly?
Oh, yes, the 150-foot filing corridor was just in case we didn't want to have to come back and notify additional landowners if we needed to adjust our route by 50 feet in either direction of the proposed easement. I think there were 4 additional landowners that we notified as needing potential easements from them should we need to adjust the route in either direction.
Thank you, Ms. Ewald. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just one follow-up question. As far as
Yes.
the landowners that you had contact regarding that variance, are they aware of the proximity of that transmission line or the right-of-way to their property?
Yes.
Of the distance?
Yeah.
Okay. No further questions.
And anything further from Deputy Secretary or other commissioners?
No, Madam Chair.
Oh, any reason this witness can't be excused? Ms. Ewald, thank you.
Your Honor, actually, she can be excused, or she can come down
I'm not
now,
worried.
but I think we would like her to be our kind of lead witness who
Okay.
remains. It seems like,
Yeah.
yeah, that would
Fine
make
with me.
sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
What you get for answering the question. All right, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. For our next witness, we call John Rogers.
Good morning, Mr. Rogers. Would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated and tell us your full name and business address.
My name is John Rogers. Business address is 139 East 4th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202.
Counsel.
Your Honor, may we approach briefly to hand him his binder? Thank you.
And if you don't mind, there's been a request that we ask the witnesses to sit a little closer to the microphone or pull it toward you.
Okay,
Just-
this
yeah,
microphone?
To make sure that it's getting picked up by our audiovisual system.
Okay,
All right, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Rogers.
morning.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Would you,
Never heard that before.
I couldn't resist. Would you please describe your responsibilities as it relates to the company's application in this proceeding?
Yeah, I'm a transmission line engineering manager for Duke Energy Ohio, Kentucky. And as part of that, I participate in the siting for any kind of new lines for Duke Energy, and so that was my role in this project at this point.
Thank you. And did you sponsor any exhibits to the application as well as responses to data requests that were issued in this proceeding?
Yes, sir.
And do you have any changes or corrections to any of that information?
No, sir.
So if you were asked those questions again today, would your responses be the same?
Yes, sir.
And is it your intention that that information be considered your testimony and be admitted into the record of this case?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. The witness is available for cross-examination.
And for staff?
Just a couple of questions for you, Mr. Rogers. Are you able to confirm that the transmission line will comply with the American Society of Testing and American Society of Civil Engineering standards?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to provide any type of testimony or have any type of knowledge of any type of communication that's occurred between the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and the County Roads Department regarding the proposed transmission line?
Not that I'm aware. Wait, can you ask that question again? Sorry. Just wanna
Any
make sure.
communication, have Duke Energy Ohio have any communication regarding the construction of the transmission line with the County Road Department or Kentucky Transportation Cabinet?
Not this line, but many lines, yes.
But not for this project?
Not for this project.
I think another question was deferred to you. As far as, well, this question, hopefully you can answer. Are you able to confirm whether there will be any type of power outages during the construction, let's say, for instance, during AIT's construction period? Are there going to be any power outages to that facility while that transmission line is being constructed?
My expectation is no to AIT, certainly. There's two locations where we tap off the existing line where there's distribution underbuild, is what I call it, which is the distribution lines are actually what serve all the residents and businesses in this area. The transmission lines we're building don't directly serve them. They go through a substation, and then it becomes distribution. So for AIT, the line doesn't go over their distribution service or in around it. Now, where it taps off, if there's some small outage that's needed to redo that work to tap off the existing line, there's potential. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Would Duke Energy Ohio be willing to coordinate with them during that possible small outage, like during a time where, I don't know, like a Sunday, where it's not as busy as maybe a Monday or a Tuesday?
Absolutely, happens all the time.
Do you have any idea how long that possible outage could last?
I would defer to somebody in construction, but
Okay.
probably nobody here.
Okay.
It wouldn't be days or anything, I can tell you that.
Are you aware or have knowledge of whether that AIT's warehouse, is that like a main warehouse for them or like a sub
I
warehouse?
have no idea about AIT's operations, sorry, other than they have that building.
Do you know how long the actual construction will last for the transmission line that involves AIT that's close to their property? Do you know how long that period will last?
Well, so probably better for Fred to answer if he
Okay.
comes back up, but I will give you kind of what I understand.
Okay.
Basically, initially, we'll have access put in, whether that's matting, most likely along AIT, it's just grass, so we'll probably have matting put down to get to the pole locations on their property. The poles will be erected. But the matting would happen earlier. It's a different company, so they come in and put the matting, and then what I'm saying is there'll be multiple iterations, but typically you'd only have a couple days per pole. So, and I would say there's probably like 2 or 3 poles on their property. So I would think the actual line construction will be about a week, The matting would be down for, take a day or so to put that down. And then we'd have string operations also, and there is an angle on this property, so my assumption is there would be some access to their property during the stringing operations. So like I said, there'd probably be 3 or 4 different times where we actually have people actively working on their property, but it'd only be for a day or so each time.
And would you again confirm that Duke Energy is committed to complete any environmental studies that might be required by state or in federal regulatory agencies to construct this line?
Yes.
I think that's all the questions I have, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Wood?
No question.
Commissioner Reagan?
Just one, can you talk about what type of poles you'll be using?
Yeah, so all the poles will be steel.
Okay.
We use steel poles only for transmission at this point at Duke. Been doing that for about 10 years, and most utilities in the country are. But I guess specifically, most of them will be direct and buried, so there'll just be a hole dug in the ground and the pole will be set in it. But there may be places where in this project that we would need engineer poles, which basically the pole sits on top of a foundation dug into the ground with concrete reinforcement, steel reinforced concrete, and the pole sits on top of it. But for most people, they look pretty similar.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And Deputy Secretary?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Those steel poles tend to be more reliable in bad weather than the wooden ones.
Certainly. Yeah, there was that Puerto Rico storm. Duke Energy participated in help fixing the whole island that lost all the power. And the wood poles were by far the worst performing. Steel was very good performing. Concrete was actually the best, but concrete presents a lot more difficulties in terms of getting stuff around, especially in a congested area like Florence. So we use steel, which can be put together in pieces. They're smaller pieces.
Could you compare the cost for me for wood to steel poles, just out of curiosity?
Once you get to transmission pole heights, they're actually surprisingly close. They're almost the same cost.
So for the really tall poles,
Correct. Shorter poles, wood's significantly cheaper.
just out of curiosity?
Yeah.
Redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Any reason this witness can't be excused?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. We've had a request for a short break,
Okay,
so let's say 15 minutes.
thank you.
See everybody back at 10:35. Okay. We are back on the record after a brief break in case number 2025-00228. And council, when you're ready, call your next witness.
Good morning, Your Honor. Duke Energy Ohio would like to call Jeff Turner to the witness stand.
Okay, and would you please remind me of your name, counsel?
It's Sheena McGee.
McGee. Good afternoon. Would you raise your right hand to be sworn? It's not afternoon. That was wishful thinking. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
Yes?
Thank you. Please be seated. Tell us your full name and your business address, please.
Full name is Jeffrey Owen Turner. My business address is 8650 Southwest Parkway, Harrison, Ohio.
Okay, counsel.
Good morning, Mr. Turner. Can you please state your position at the company for the record?
I'm a principal engineer in the Power Grid Planning Department, Duke Energy, Ohio, Kentucky.
Thank you. Can you please give a brief description to the board of your role at the company as it pertains to this proceeding?
My department handles capacity analysis and expansion planning for the transmission systems of Duke Energy, Ohio, and Kentucky. And my role is basically advisory to any issues that come up with the project, this project, to provide, transmission service to a Duke Energy Kentucky substation.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. And did you cause to sponsor any responses to data requests in this proceeding?
Yes?
And do you have any changes or corrections to any of those responses?
No?
And is it your intent that those responses be admitted as part of the record as your testimony in this proceeding?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. The witness is ready for cross-examination.
Okay, and for staff.
Mr. Turner, are you able to describe to the citing board or explain to the citing board why 2 new 138 kV transmission lines are needed and not just one?
We're providing service to a new distribution service substation, and we don't feel that one transmission supply will be adequate, because anytime that source would be unavailable, then all the customers would be out that would be served from that substation. So our standard practice is to provide 2 transmission connections to our distribution substations.
Have any
Is that to provide redundancy then?
Yes.
Okay.
Have any interconnection reports or studies been done for this project?
I studied the impact on the loading of the transmission facilities.
What was your ultimate conclusion?
My conclusion was that the transmission line that we're connecting to has adequate capacity to serve the requirements of the substation.
Will Duke Energy Ohio own the new substation?
The substation will have split ownership. Some of the facilities will be owned by Duke Energy Ohio, and some of the facilities will be owned by Duke Energy Kentucky.
And what facilities, who's going to determine who owns what? And
The split is these facilities, the 138 kV facilities that form part of the Duke Energy Ohio transmission network will be owned by Duke Energy Ohio, and then any equipment connected to those 138 kV facilities that serve the Duke Energy Kentucky transformers and load will be owned by Duke Energy Kentucky.
who will own the transmission lines?
Duke Energy Ohio.
Who is going to be responsible for paying the interconnection cost?
I don't know the answer to that.
Maybe as a post-hearing data.
Yeah, we'll request that in a post-hearing data request. Has a system impact study been done, a facility studies, or any of those studies been completed for this project?
Nothing beyond the studies I performed to determine capacity.
What studies did you exactly perform?
I took the current model of our transmission system, that we modeled the entire system of Duke Energy Ohio and Kentucky. I basically inserted the new substation in the line between the substations on each end of that line, added the projected load to that line, and then solved the case, and then took a couple of the various contingencies that we look at, which is outages on the system, to see if there would be any issues for outages, and determined that there's adequate capacity with all facilities in service to serve the load, and with the loss of either line on either side, there would be no issues.
Did you compile a report with all your conclusions?
Did I compile a report? No.
Yes. That's all the questions I have for this witness.
Okay, Mr. Wood.
Yes, Mr. Turner, how did all this come up? How did you determine there was a need for this, and kind of when did that appear, and what other solutions were sought instead of constructing this facility?
The project was driven by our distribution planning department. They handle the planning for capacity for the distribution supply to the area, which is the 12 kV system. So they plan that system and also the 138 to 12 kV transformation required to supply the load. So they determined they needed a new substation in this area to serve the growing needs. Basically, the existing facilities were becoming heavily loaded, and they determined the best way to serve that would be to basically put a substation kind of in the middle of everything, and then refeed everything out and allow for new growth. So they determined the need for their substation. Once they did that, they would come to transmission, and we have to determine, how we're going to serve that from the transmission system. And based on the location of their substation, the source of supply was the Duke Energy Ohio transmission line. So then we proceeded forward to determine how we would connect it to that line.
So the existing substation won't be used anymore, and instead it'll be, the load will be shifted to this new substation, and due to construction of the new substation, that's what is driving the requirement for this line to be built?
Well, the existing substations will continue to be used, but the load will be shifted as needed between the existing and the new substations.
Very well. That's all I have.
Commissioner Regan?
Just one question. You said that the existing substation needs, it needs to be expanded because of the growth. And this is a hypothetical, and I don't know, but if a data center were to come into that area, in addition to what you're seeing today, is that going to be enough for that transmission line, or will more need to be added?
I'll say it depends on the size of the data center. We've seen small ones that could be handled. We've seen very, very large ones that could not be handled by that transmission line.
Is there a cutoff point where it can be handled and where not? Voltage?
Not really. It's site-specific.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Secretary?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Turner. You answered this question, but I just want to get just a little bit more clarification. You said it's standard practice to provide 2 lines to your substation, but are there any risk evaluations done, or is it just always standard practice? That's what you guys do.
It's pretty much always standard practice that we would want to provide two sources.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't read in the record anywhere. Will there be additional distribution lines that'll have to be built to get the power from this substation, or will existing distribution, is that adequate out there?
I believe there will definitely have to be distribution lines from the station out to the streets to tie into the existing, but I'm not aware of the total plans that they have for reconfiguring the distribution system in the area.
That would be short distribution, is that correct, just to tie into existing lines?
Just the tie-in will be short connections from the substation to the existing lines on the streets in the vicinity.
Okay. Okay, got you. Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Turner, I'd asked earlier Mr. Trammell, and he deferred to you, just in general, the interplay between Duke, Ohio and Duke Energy Kentucky. Why Ohio is building the transmission in Kentucky?
My understanding is that in the mid-'70s, around 1977, the decision was made that all transmission facilities that were basically part of the regional network that served both Ohio and Kentucky would be owned by Duke Energy Ohio, and then just the local transmission lines that served only Kentucky load would be owned by Duke Energy Kentucky. And this particular line is one of those lines that's part of the regional grid and owned by Duke Energy Ohio.
Okay, so the larger projects are the ones that would be owned by Duke Ohio?
Right, yeah, generally speaking, the higher voltage 138 kV.
Okay. Would this also connect to Duke Kentucky facilities and customers?
Well, it will supply Kentucky customers via the distribution substation that's being installed.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have. Anything further, Commissioners? Deputy Secretary? Redirect.
Yes, ma'am. I have a few questions. So, Mr. Turner, you described feeding the substation. Who owns those substations?
This particular substation,
Yes,
joint ownership between Ohio and Kentucky.
thank you. Do you recall the question asking why Duke Energy Ohio determined that 2 transmission lines were needed for this project?
Yes?
Can you provide a brief explanation about the benefits of having 2 sources for the substation?
The benefits are if there's an interruption on one source, then the load can still be supplied by the other source, whether that interruption is due to a car accident or a weather event, or just to do normal maintenance so that we can work on the equipment without requiring customers to be taken out of service.
Thank you, Mr. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Turner. No further questions.
Okay. Recross?
No, Madam Chair.
Fellow Commissioners? Any recross? Just to follow up. So, okay, so Duke Energy Ohio owns the larger transmission, and that was a decision that was made years ago. Is that something that the PSC in either Ohio or Kentucky required, or has that just been a company policy decision?
I believe the company made the decision to do that themselves in the 70s.
And then who makes the decision about cost allocation?
I don't think I can answer that.
Okay, it would be not you.
Not me.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Your Honor. May the witness be excused?
Yes. Unless there's any objection.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. And when you're ready, call your next witness.
Your Honor, Duke Energy Ohio would call Mr. Ken Muth as our next witness.
Mr. Muth, would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated and tell us your full name and business address, if you please.
Yes, name is Kenneth Mitchell Muth. Title is Government and Community Relations Manager for Kentucky, and I'm housed out of 139 East 4th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202.
Thank you. Ms. McGee?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Muth, can you please state your position at the company for the record?
Government and Community Relations Manager.
I did that already. Can you please give the board a brief description of your role at the company as it pertains to this proceeding?
So my network typically are our government, our mayors, our judges, executive, our county emergency management folks, a lot of our nonprofits, and I'm kind of a face of Duke, if you will, out in the community.
Thank you, Mr. Muth. And did you sponsor an exhibit that was included in Duke Energy's application in this proceeding?
Yes.
And do you have any changes or corrections to that exhibit?
No.
And is it your intent that that material sponsored be admitted as your testimony in this proceeding?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. Your Honor, the witness is ready for cross-examination.
Staff?
Mr. Muth, I just have a couple questions for you. Could you please describe to the siting board the contact that Duke Energy Ohio has had with local county officials and judge executives for this project?
Sure. So we held our first meetings with Judge Moore, Matthew Webster, and Rob Franksman, who are county administration for Boone County, with Josh Hunt, who's the city administrator for Florence, and Mayor Abishan of Florence, and also representatives from Boone County Planning. This was on June 28th of 2024, to really talk about the substation, the needs for it, to understand any concerns that they might have. I will say of those three parties, Florence was the only one that really had any kind of real concerns, and it was really around developable land and the impacts that this might have to that. We took that feedback and incorporated that into our design, our routing study. And then we circled back to everybody in the January-February timeframe of 2025 to talk about the line studies. Again, at that time, Mayor Abishan had some concerns about, she did not want to see transmission assets going down Houston Road, which is the main retail corridor in the city of Florence. So we incorporated that in and made some modifications and met with them again in, I believe it was July of 2025 to give them the update. So that's the community outreach that happened.
At your last meeting in July 2025, did any of those community officials have further concerns about the layout, the route of this project?
No.
Have there been any complaints from potential landowners, participating landowners about the transmission route?
I would say no. Through feedback that we got from the city, we learned of a fairly substantial mixed-use development that I think that Betsy touched on, that one of the original lines would have kind of paralleled that land, but it would have made some significant impacts to that development. So we met with that developer, we worked around that, and we shifted that final design route to allow that development to happen. That was really the only concern.
Was there a letter or flyer sent to local residents who are within 500 feet of the transmission line?
Probably would defer that to Betsy.
Okay. No further questions for this witness.
Okay. Commissioner Wood.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Commissioner Regan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So just a couple questions on, I know that you've met with the local elected officials. Is there any plan to meet with the constituents in that area and talk about what's going to happen and that kind of thing? Like a town hall meeting to introduce what?
We did have, I believe it was 2 open houses.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah, that process has happened. And we would be available to meet with anybody that had any concerns.
Okay, and has there been any concern about just kind of like around the homes, about seeing that tower? Have you gotten any pushback on that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Deputy Secretary Lyons.
No questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. Other than AIT, you didn't have any significant objection from your open houses? Were they well attended?
I guess it depends
That's
on
relative.
what you define as well attended. I mean, there were certainly people that came to the one open house.
Okay.
We were there for 2 or 3 hours, I think 3 hours, and there might have been 35 people.
Okay, yeah. So people knew about it?
Yes.
It didn't fly under the radar for the locals?
Right.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have. Any other follow-up from commissioners?
Nope.
Redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor.
In that case, any reason why this witness couldn't be excused? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're excused. Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. We would like to call next Mr. John Hurd to the stand.
Hello, Mr. Hurd. Would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. Tell us your full name and business address.
Sure.
My name is John Keith Hurd Jr., and my business address is 139 East 4th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202.
Ms. Mason?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hurd, could you please state your official title for the record?
My title is the Director of Infrastructure Engagement for Ohio and Kentucky.
Thank you. And could you please briefly describe your responsibilities in regards to this particular project?
Sure. Yes, my team's responsibilities on this project is to do the public engagement outreach from the beginning of the project that we started in 2024, before we started the route selection study, and that will continue all the way through the construction and restoration of the project at the end.
Thank you. And Mr. Hurd, did you sponsor portions of the application and certain exhibits in this case?
Yes.
And did you also sponsor responses to data requests that were filed in this case?
Yes.
And do you have any corrections or changes to any portions of the application or exhibits or your responses to data requests?
No.
And if you were asked to provide the same information and same data request responses today, would that information be the same?
Yes.
Thank you. And is it your intent that those portions of the application, the exhibits, and the data request responses be considered your testimony in this proceeding and be admitted into the record of this proceeding?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. The witness is available for cross-examination.
Ms. Carr?
Mr. Hurd, I just have a few questions for you. Can you describe to the siting board what letters or mailers were sent out to residents who are in close proximity or will be in close proximity of the transmission line?
Sure. Yes. So when we were doing the route selection study, in support of that, we sent letters and a follow-up postcard to all property owners within 500 feet of any of the route alternatives that were considered in the route selection study. And that was to invite them to the public open house that we had in person there, as well as inform them that we did have a project website with the project information, public comment forms. We also provided a hotline and an email for them to call or email any questions that they did have. And then after the route selection study was completed, we did follow up with all of those same property owners and let them know, one, if they were a property owner that was going to be impacted within the project corridor that we filed with this application. So if they were within that 150-foot corridor, we sent them one letter, and then we sent all the other property owners that we did invite to the open house a letter letting them know the results of that route selection study.
And so did those letters or mailers indicate like your residence will be within 150 feet of the proposed right-of-way or within 500 feet of the transmission line? Did those letters actually indicate that to the residency?
That's a good question. So the first letter, before we had the preferred routes, we did just let them know that they were within 500 feet of a potential route alternative that we were considering. And then after we finished the route selection study, we did send them a letter to notify them that they were within, I believe it was 75 feet of one of the preferred routes that was selected for the project.
Did you receive any public comments or emails regarding from those mailers that were sent out?
Mm-hmm. So at the open house, some of the attendees did. We had public comment forms for the public to fill out, and we did receive, I believe it was 6 comment forms that were filled out. We had a lot of other feedback from other stakeholders in the various meetings that we had and or conversations that we had at the open house as well, in addition to those comment forms.
Did any of those comments include could you possibly change the route besides AIT or the layout of the project?
Let me think. There were comments about their preferences of which route was selected. So some comments that we received did indicate preferences of certain segments over other segments, which route to be selected.
Have you had, or Duke Energy Ohio had any contact or meetings with AIT since your application was filed and they intervened in this case?
Not since the application was filed, but we met with them twice prior to the filing.
No further questions, Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Wood.
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Regan?
Just out of curiosity, I think that Duke Energy, at least in this case, has done a very good job of educating the the constituents and the businesses around it. Is this how you typically roll something out?
Yes,
Or all?
whenever we're building a new transmission facility such as this or a transmission substation, we typically do public outreach like this, whether it's, it depends on the project and the community, and in an area developed like this, right, we knew there was going to be a lot of involved parties just from our existing relationships and conversations. But our standard practice is that we always do some sort of outreach to at least government officials. But then if we're anticipating a bigger project or more impacts, we will expand that and do public open houses like we did on this project.
And as you move forward with the project, will there be an 800 number or a hotline if someone during the construction period to call in to Duke Energy or something like that?
Yep, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so my team will probably do a couple additional rounds of communications to the property owners. So one, if we need to do additional field surveys, to let them know, because it's been a little while since we've done a previous one. So we'll do that, but then also prior to construction, we also will notify them. And on all those communications, we'll always put our hotline and email address for them to contact. And then my team monitors that, gets back with the property owners and coordinates with the project team on how to resolve their concerns or answer their questions.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
Deputy Secretary?
No questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
And Mr. Hurd, do you know who will maintain the lines going forward? Which company?
The transmission lines, Duke Energy Ohio is my understanding who will own and maintain those lines.
Does it matter which state it's in? The owner does that work and I guess bills it to their customers?
I don't know how the billing works,
Okay.
but as far as maintenance, I
Okay.
believe, yeah.
All right. Redirect.
Were you present for earlier this hearing, Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
And do you recall a question about whether the company met with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet?
Yes.
Could you speak to that, please?
Sure. Give me 1 second. Just gonna flip to my exhibit. Yes, so we did meet with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet on July 1st in 2024 to discuss the potential route alternatives and get their feedback on any concerns that they had on any of those route alternatives.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Staff?
No further questions.
Mr. Wood? Mr. Wood?
In a DR, could we ask how, from a financial standpoint, the costs are being allocated between Kentucky and Ohio? Is that something that you guys can provide?
Yes, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Is that okay, Nicole?
Yes.
Great. Thanks.
Anything further? Any reason this witness can't be excused?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, sir. You're excused. And do we need to recall any witnesses? We had
None?
2 in reserve.
Yeah, there were a couple of questions I think that were possibly deferred, but we do not have any redirect
I don't-
for those ones.
We're fine.
You don't want to? Okay. Anything,
Right.
Deputy Secretary, you need to recall either Mr. Trammell or Ms. Ewalt?
No, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right. In that case, I'll excuse those witnesses. And do we have anything further at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I don't believe we had any additional exhibits. We referred to some things, but they're all on the record already. Okay. Any motions at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, let's see. Final order needs to be entered by January 14th, if my information is correct. Staff, can you issue written summary of your post-hearing data requests by December 19th?
Yes.
So that is 3 days. That's enough? All right, these are tight turnarounds for these siding board cases. If she does get those out in the next 3 days, counsel for applicant, can you respond by December 30th?
We will make every endeavor.
Okay. Answer what you can, explain
Yes.
why you can't, if you can't, and when we might see any follow-up responses. If either party wants to brief, we'd like that by December 23rd. Christmas Eve, a great day to write a brief.
At least
No one wants to be-
55 degrees.
Yeah, it's going to be nice and warm for Christmas compared to what we've had. All right. Anything further from any party at this time? If not, thank you all, and everybody have a safe trip home. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.